As you may or may not know, finally, I'm gonna take a sip of this lovely beverage. As you may or may not know, after 6 months of stalling, after months of GOP craziness, after Marjorie Taylor Greene trying to basically blackmail the Speaker of the House into not um, allowing Ukraine aid to be put to a vote, finally, the 60 billion aid bill has been put to the vote, and it overwhelmingly passed. It overwhelmingly passed. Over 100 Democrats have voted for, zero against. Over 100 Republicans have voted for, and there have been some Republicans that have voted against. So we can sort of see where certain, how should I say it, where certain priorities lie, where certain loyalties lie. In fact, I do believe I have a little bit of a picture here that sort of demonstrates it. Hold on, hold up the phone. I believe we have a pretty clear thing here that we can put up on screen. I'm pretty, what can I say? I will not complain about the outcome of this. So, aid. On passage, HR 8035. We have a nice screenshot here, I believe. There we have it. On passage of aid for Ukraine. Republican 104, 112 against. So if it would be just up to the Republicans, the aid would have not passed. Just saying. Democratic 210 for, 0 against. And I guess there are a few things that I can say about it. Of course, it includes the sending of the long range attacks to Ukraine. There's been a slight controversy. You can see on this screenshot that there are people holding Ukrainian flags, which actually watched this vote unfold live. I watched this whole voting process live, and I have a few thoughts, okay, on the voting itself, on the passing of the bill itself. So, starting from the most trivial, that of course people started waving their little Ukrainian flags in support of their ally, Ukraine. And I thought it was just a little cute thing. I thought it was like this moment of solidarity. I thought it was pretty nice that the flags were being waved as aid was basically being voted in. But apparently, according to salty GOP MAGA hats, that's some indication of betrayal against the US itself. Waving Ukrainian flags. That is so anti American. That is so anti patriotic. That is so. I don't know. I didn't think that would be made a big deal of, but apparently I've underestimated the Make America Great Again crowd, and they've actually made a big stink. They've cried about it a lot on X/Twitter. The other thing I want to talk about is the amendments, of course. There were a few amendments that were being voted for. Among them was the Marjorie Taylor Greene amendment. The Marjorie Taylor Greene amendment, that sort of like, I think that particular amendment from Marjorie Taylor Greene from Florida was about reducing all aid amount of money to zero. So I really want to take a look at that, how that went. Kamak of Florida, Part B, Amendment No. 4. That's Kamak from Florida. But I want to see Marjorie Taylor Greene. Greene of Georgia. There we go. Greene of Georgia. I'm gonna turn this off. Kamak is not as interesting. Greene of Georgia. Part B. Amendment No. 2, the one that reduced all aid to zero. On agreeing to the amendment, Republican 70 yes, 139 nay. Democrats 0 yay, 212 nay. Total 70 to 351. There we go. So, Marjorie Taylor Greene was in fact not able to pass her amendment that would reduce aid to zero. How surprising. What a shocking development. Right? What a shocking development that such an amendment would in fact not pass. Oh well, it's such is life. You cannot always get what you want. But so that's it. That's the aid has passed. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been screeching about how America lost, America last, I'm America first, screeching about endless wars, screeching about how all the stupid arguments under the book about, I don't know, Ukrainian Nazis or something. And so we've got that down. The aid has been passed. Another vote's gonna be taking place on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, in the Senate. And then Biden supposedly will just straight away sign it. And already, sort of, within the next few weeks, aid will be sent. First, sort of, weapons will be sent to Ukraine. And, of course, this whole thing about aid, this whole thing about passing aid has triggered some discussion. It has triggered discussion such as, has the aid been passed too late to make a significant difference? What sort of difference will it make? How fast and in how big quantities will the aid be delivered? Will it mean a reversal on the front line? Will it just mean stopping the advancement of Russian forces? Sadly, the experts seem to agree that the aid passing, at least on its own, is not enough to cause a significant turnaround in the situation in the war. It seems like, well, for one, the aid just comes in very, very late, which complicates the whole situation. Even, we'll see. I am a bit worried about just how much damage has been done during these months, 6 months that the aid has been stalled. That will be very difficult to undo. there are some pretty bold plans on the side of Ukraine. For example, there's this continuous talk of destroying the Crimean bridge and reclaiming Crimea, although most experts say that it's, let's just say that it's going to be difficult. Let's see. Uh, let's see if we can find the article. Okay, this is from like 20 minutes ago, an article. Let's read it. But there is like careful optimism about the aid, about the past aid, depending on how everything depends on how fast the weapons will get to the battleground and in what quantities. We'll see. We'll see if it will cause a reversal and how much of a reversal on the battleground it'll cause. Like there's I've seen some skepticism on whether or not this aid alone can cause a significant reversal on the situation. Um, I think in order to, I think Ukraine would need to gain a significant advantage on the battlefield in order to for Russia to back off and actually sign a peace agreement on Ukraine's terms. And so far, that is not what the West has been delivering to Ukraine. This sort of big advantage over Russia, and it could. It definitely has the potential to do that, in my opinion. Like, for example, a thing that might force Russia to sit at the table would be to cut off Crimea and then also gaining advantage on the eastern battlefield. But it seems like those things will not be easy to accomplish. Ukraine to receive new military aid from US sooner than expected, Congressman says during visit to Kyiv. Let's see this article. This seems interesting to me. The first batch of US military aid will be delivered to Ukraine sooner than anyone think is possible. After the final approval, Bill Keating, Massachusetts Democratic congressman, said during a press conference in Kyiv on April 22nd, according to a Kyiv Independent reporter. After months of congressional gridlock, the U.S. House of Representatives passed a $61 billion aid bill for Kyiv. On April 20th, sending the legislation to the Senate, where a vote is expected as early as April 23rd. So basically, it is already April 23rd in Poland, so for me it's sort of today. But I guess for the US it is still pretty much tomorrow. The delays have led to critical shortages in artillery rounds and air defense ammunition, putting an ever increasing strain on Ukrainian forces. Unnamed US defense officials told Politico last week that the Pentagon had already prepared shipments of weapons and equipment in anticipation of the bill passing, which is a good thing. which means that basically once it passes the another vote, once Biden signs it, the shipments can just be sent right away, which is that is really good. That is really really good actually. Keating, who is also a member of the U.S. House Committees on Foreign Affairs and Armed Services, said that Kyiv might receive some weapons in days and some might be in weeks. Which, good that Ukraine will receive some weapons in days. But the question remains, what will those weapons be? What quantities are we talking about? Those are two pretty important questions when it comes to aid. We don't know the schedule, and even if we did, we would not tell anyone because it could affect a strategy in the war. A congressman told the reporters in Mikhailivska Square in Kiev. But the fact is, people should be confident that there is no stone left unturned in terms of getting them here quickly. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. Like, I have learned to be skeptical about words, and I will be very happy to observe results of these statements. Earlier on April 22nd, a bipartisan delegation of US lawmakers met with President Volodymyr Zelensky, who had held a call with his American counterpart Joe Biden. Zelensky discussed with US lawmakers the need for artillery shells, combat aircraft, electronic warfare, and long range missiles. So, ATACMS, the long range missile ATACMS, are part of the bill. They're like, I guess, a requirement put in the bill that ATACMS long range missiles be sent, as well as support for the development of Ukraine's defense industry, the president office said. And today's result is that all agreements on ATACMS for Ukraine are sorted out, which was like a very explicit part of the bill. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Congress. Thank you, US, Zelensky said in an evening address. The US first delivered ATACMS missiles to Ukraine in October 2023. Following months of deliberation, the package included only the older models with a range of 165 kilometers. Newer variations of ATACMS have a maximum range of around 300 kilometers and have so far not been provided to Ukraine, which I guess that remains a question. Which ATACMS will be provided this time? I am sort of skeptical when it comes to this, so I will say that it's probably still going to be the 165 kilometers because I worry that the US will sort of still use this rhetoric of if we give the 300-kilometer ones, that will be escalation. That is what I'm thinking on the matter. Oh, we'll see. Unless the rest of the article sort of dispels my worry and claims that it's going to be the 300-kilometer ones. In late February, NBC News reported that the White House would be ready to provide Kyiv with longer range ATACMS missiles variants if Congress approved a new funding package. Okay, I guess my worries have been dispelled within the next sentence. Like, the new funding package has been approved. So I guess that means that the White House will provide Kyiv with the longer range ATACMS, which is great. Finally, U.S. Democratic Senator Mark Warner said on April 21st that ATACMS, which can travel up to 300 kilometers, may be ready to ship to Ukraine by the end of the week. That could be a pretty big game changer. Oh, how many? Hold on, how many of them are gonna be sent? Like, I'm still not seeing any sort of. Well, I guess they said that they cannot say how many because that would affect strategy, but down. I really hope it's not going to be some pathetic amount. According to Zelensky, Ukraine's air defense capabilities were a priority at the meeting with the bipartisan delegation amid an uptick in Russian attacks on population centers and energy infrastructure. Which, by the way, very recently, the solar infrastructure in Ukraine has performed so well that it actually created a surplus energy that was sent to Poland when Poland needed energy. It happened like a few days ago, basically. We absolutely need air defense. Once the decision is made, we really need concrete help with this, he added. Congressmen said that they would continue to support Ukraine in its fight against Russia's all out war. We assured Volodymyr Zelensky that we're here and we stand with Ukraine not just through the war because the war will be over someday. We stand with Ukraine economically, diplomatically, and as a democracy, Keating told reporters. So, I guess to sort of recap, I guess to sort of summarize the entirety of the situation, it is great that the situation that it is great that the aid has finally passed. Better late than never. It would be a disaster if the aid did not pass. It would be just I would be a very telling moment for the US. But thankfully it did pass. Thankfully the most radical parts of the Republican Party were not able to change that. And now I guess we will have to see. Like, I could speculate on whether or not I think this will cause a huge reversal in the situation. I could start making up theories of what it exactly means for the battlefield. But the truth is that I don't know. I know that is definitely good for the situation, of course, that the aid has passed. It is even better that the weapons will land at the front sooner than people expected. But we will see what exactly the direct impact on the front line will be. Like the most sort of, I guess, conservative estimates say that it will help stop the advance of Russia because right now Russia's advancing, gaining ground, and trying to take advantage of this window between the passing of the bill and the weapons reaching Ukraine. So Russia is definitely rushing to take advantage of this window of opportunity to still be able to push fairly unhindered. So there's this sort of careful estimation that this aid will halt the Russian advancement. And then there are more optimistic sort of estimations that say that this aid might actually not just allow Ukraine to stop the advancement of Russia, but also sort of reverse the momentum, to bring the momentum to the Ukrainian side, to be able to sort of push the Russians back. We will see. There's another aspect to this which has been brought up by many, which I believe is a pretty legitimate concern. I'm not sure if I would put it like that. A pretty legitimate sort of ask, because Europe has been under pressure, sort of, because of this whole uh, delayed aid. Europe itself has been feeling a fire under its ass to sort of do more, to speed up certain things, um, to sort of do to step up when it comes to aid. And the big worry is that since the aid of in the US has passed finally after 6 months or maybe even almost seven, that it will lead to complacency in Europe. And I certainly hope that the tempo of the improvement in the manufacturing portion of Europe will not stop, that Europe will not stop seeking third party um sellers of weapons to buy from and to send to Ukraine. I really hope the momentum in Europe will not cease just because aid in the US has passed. I certainly hope it will not uh, lead to a slowdown of aid coming from Europe itself. Like, because the truth is, Ukraine needs as much aid as it can get from all sources that it can get. Like, the US aid alone is not enough. Europe has to keep stepping up, it has to improve its manufacturing capabilities, and it has to buy weapons and ammunition and send it to Ukraine as much as possible, as fast as possible. Because I assume the result that we wish for, that we all wish for, collectively, the US, Europe, the so called West, the result that it's looking for is not just stopping the Russian advancement. I assume the result that we are all looking for is actually Ukraine being able to push Russians back and to secure a situation in which Ukraine will be able to, should there be any talk of peace negotiations, that Ukraine will be able to conduct such negotiations from the position of power rather than the position of weakness. Which, by the way, we've already seen that Russia, when having an advantage, it does not want to stop and negotiate, it wants to push further. So, I don't know. I'm turning this into some sort of like not super happy news, even though it is super happy news that the aid has passed finally. But at the end of the day, I am also Polish. So I sort of temper my happiness with the thoughts that at the end of the day, the aid unfortunately has come very late. The aid has passed very late after many months of delay. A lot of damage has been done. A lot of people have died, of course. And that it is not entirely certain just how much big of a reversal in the situation this aid will cause. We'll have to wait and see. That's the best thing we can do without jumping into the areas of wild speculation. And that is, for me, compounded since I'm not exactly a military expert. I would certainly need to brush up on my knowledge when it comes to these things to be able to make any sort of, to even begin to try to make any sort of predictions on, or speculations, more like predictions, not even the right word here, on what sort of reversals in the situation on the battlefield could be gained by this. It is certainly a good thing, though. And a lot of sort of, it is pretty agreed upon that at least we can count on Ukraine gaining the capacity to at least stop the Russian current sort of advancement, which would be great. And of course, there's still the problem of conscription, etc., that Ukraine itself faces. That's a whole other topic. That's a whole other sort of the conscription, the fact that um, casualties are wearing on the soldiers, the average age is wearing on the soldiers, which many sort of field medics that work on the front sort of talk about. Okay, that's it when it comes to our talk about aid. I'm not sure if I gave an atmosphere of celebration, or I'm not sure. I'm not sure what sort of atmosphere I've built for for this. But at the end of the day, we should all be glad that the aid has indeed passed. I am certainly glad. And I was very glad upon when watching the vote happening live. And I was even more amused to see people like Marjorie Taylor Greene moan, whine, and bitch about it. There's no other word. Crying how America last, Ukraine first. We're not even fixing the southern border. Well, so that's it. If you like this segment, then don't forget to give appreciation by liking, clicking, etc., etc.